Is Andy online? Good evening and welcome to our school board meeting. Today's date is Tuesday, January 4th. Happy New Year, everyone. Members present in the boardroom, we have members Wilson, Lessons, Jacobs, Higgins, Bellamy. Donnelly is here. He is in the building. And then we have member Holloman, who will be joining us on virtually online. We also have our superintendent and Dr. Bishop, and we have Katie Grant, our recording secretary. At this time, please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that brings us to our land acknowledgement, item A2 on our agenda. On behalf of the Anchorage School Board, I want to take a moment to recognize and offer gratitude for the sacred ancestral lands of the Dena'ina people. We acknowledge and appreciate that our offices, facilities, and schools are on these sacred indigenous lands, and we honor the traditional care that has been given to this land throughout the generations. We are grateful for the opportunity to grow, learn, work, and create educational communities on this sacred land. We extend continued respect for the many cultures, creativity, and resilience of its indigenous peoples. Shannon. Again, welcome to our meeting. We thank you for attending, and we thank you for supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and the work of this board. We thank our students, our parents, our teachers, staff, school business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district. And that brings us to the approval of our agenda. Before we approve, we need to add an item to the agenda. And that item would be added under community reports. It's the legislative citation to add under community reports as item 3. So if I can get a motion to do that and a second, it would be great.
Madam President, I so move. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and second that we add a legislative citation presentation to item B as item B3. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, that item is added under B as item B3. Thank you. With that, we can now approve the agenda as presented. I'll entertain a motion to do so.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Moved in second to approve the agenda as amended. Are there any objections? Seeing none, or hearing none, the agenda stands approved. All right, as amended. Thank you. And we're going to continue on with item B1. We have a special engagement tonight with our Special Education Advisory Committee, at least a report from them. I'm not sure who is, we have
Hi, I'm Kelly Sheffer. I'm the SEAC secretary, and also
Hi.
Freeman Gaynor is here to talk about SEEK.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
So SEAC is the Special Education Advisory Council. We have a website. It's asdk12.org/SEAC. And I can go ahead and talk about our vision statement and our mission statement. We serve as a resource and voice for our students with disabilities, families, and community. We'll strive to support equal and equitable access to the highest quality of educational practices, to include academics, inclusion, transition services, behavioral and mental health services, and related services. And our mission statement is the Anchorage School District's ASD Special Education Advisory Council's mission is to share ideas, identify concerns, raise community awareness, advocate, and advise ASD to support our students to navigate their educational experiences to prepare for success in life. So we recently revised our bylaws. We have a membership that's comprised of a variety of stakeholders, including district staff, parents, agency staff, and other stakeholders. We have monthly meetings that are open to the public over Zoom. People that want to be members can apply via the website. SEAC is kind of building its capacity this year. We have new officers. Laura Allen is our chairperson. Our vice chair is Renee Hayes, and she's a parent. And then myself, my name is Kelly Sheffer. I'm the secretary of SEAC. I'm a special education teacher and a parent of 2 students that receive special education services. And Gaynor Freeman is also here as a longtime SEAC member and advisor and supporter and STEP Center coordinator. Kind of the big idea, as I see it for SEAC, and I'm relatively new, is it's a communication portal for parents and agencies in the district. And the idea is to bring together the different stakeholders like students, parents, agency staff, and district staff to kind of build those relationships that will strengthen the supports that are available for students that receive special education services. SEAC can provide the district with specialized input and insight. Our last meeting, we had a presentation on dyslexia from Ashley Becks from Reading Right Alaska. It's kind of an example. We can connect the district with specialists to prevent information and research, offer a forum for students, parents, other stakeholders to review district decisions and policies, provide advice on using limited district resources to have a maximum benefit for students as well as for the community at large. So that's just kind of a general overview. My question for you is, how can the Special Education Advisory Committee assist the school board to support students who are eligible for special education? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else on your team like to speak?
I'm Gaynor, and I've been part of SEAC for about 7 years now and love it, and so happy that we have new positions and more input from the community. Right now, we are trying to recruit students, so we keep trying to get the word out, but if anybody's listening that has special education students that would like to be a part of our SEAC committee, please reach out. We have our website is www.asdk12.org/SEAC, SEAC. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to open up further discussion, questions to the board. Yes, Member Lessons?
Well, actually, I wanted to respond to Ms. Sheffer's question, which was, how can SEAC help the board? And there are 2 ways that I immediately would say, yes, please help us. And number 1 is, and this actually applies to everybody in the entire community, there is a superintendent search. There is a community survey. I think that the entire board would appreciate knowing that the SEAC community is taking an active role in filling out that survey. So please help us by making sure that people affiliated with SEAC do so. And the second one is help be a part of our budget process that's coming up over the next couple of months. if you can be an active part in testifying, informing us of your priorities, that would help me, I think, at the very least.
Yes, thank you. Other questions or comments for our SEAC committee? I'd like to know more about how do you work with how do students fit on, what do they do when we recruit them to you? What do they get to do? And how do they what does that experience look like?
Well, I think that it would be nice just to be able to have the students participate themselves so that we can hear their voices and how they would like SEAC to advocate for them, and know that we are doing our part to bring it back to the school board and to the Anchorage School District Superintendent, so that we can further improve their education. So just needing some input from students, I think that it would be a great benefit to us and have them to be there at the meetings. They are after school at 4 p.m. Right now we're doing Zoom. So hopefully we could have some involvement in that they could attend because of the time frame.
Very good, thank you. And I just want to share that we have reserved time at the very beginning of our meetings for student testimony. So if ever you want to bring them or Zoom them in to us, please feel free to do that during that time, during our public comment time. Right?
Thank you, that's great to know.
Mm-hmm. And when do you meet? When are your meetings?
We meet on the second Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. over Zoom. And we, if anybody's interested in the public coming, they can contact me, Kelly, any of us, Laura Allen, and we can. I don't know if we can add that into your chat or on the screen, but to let people know. But they can go to our website and find out that information, or they can call me anytime, 907-742-3872. And my email, you can email me at step@asdk12.org.
Very good. Okay, seeing no more questions, I thank you for your time and for the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to item 2, which we do not have that report tonight. Our student advisory rep could not be with us. And so now we're at item B3. I'd like to I'd like to invite Representative Schrage to come forward and make a presentation, actually 2 presentations. Welcome.
Testing, testing. Very good. Well, thank you, President Bellamy and school board members, Superintendent Bishop, for the opportunity to be here before you tonight. Here for a wonderful reason, which is that, well, many folks don't know this, but school board members can, of course, as you all know, be elected from anywhere in our city. And I feel especially grateful and excited about the fact that my district, District 25 in Southeast Anchorage, not only has 1 school board member, but 3, two of whom were, I'm very excited to say were able to join the board this last year. And so serving in the legislature, I had the great honor to be able to put forward a legislative citation congratulating school board member Kelly Lessons, as well as school board member Pat Higgins, congratulating them to their election to the school board. And so if I may, I know you guys have a busy agenda and lots to do. I'm very familiar with that world. I would like to just very quickly read a few short lines from the citation in recognition of that great honor. So if I might, the members of the 32nd Alaska State Legislature take great pride in congratulating Kelly Lessons and Patrick Higgins as new members of the Anchorage School Board. Both Kelly and Patrick were sworn into the Anchorage School Board on May 3rd, 2021. At that same meeting, Kelly was chosen to be a board treasurer. These 2 new members bring a depth of experience and ability to the Anchorage School Board. Children are our most valuable resource, and a successful education system is pivotal to the bright future for Alaska. With the challenges our students, educators, and family have faced over the last year and now 2 years due to COVID-19, we commend Kelly and Patrick for their willingness to serve on the Anchorage School Board during these challenging times. Anchorage students will be well served with these two individuals on the school board. The members of the 32nd Alaska State Legislature congratulate Kelly Lessons and Patrick Higgins on their election to the Anchorage School Board and wish them the best in their service to the Anchorage students, educators, and families. So again, it's just a great honor to be able to recognize these two wonderful additions to the board. And of course, I'd like to congratulate all of our new board members, but especially my constituents, Kelly Lessons and Pat Higgins. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you. Stand up.
Please, and if I might invite you both up for a picture so that we can help to spread the good word.
Thank you, Representative Schrage. Thank you. Thank you very much. And congratulations to members Higgins and Lessons. Thank you very much. And so that brings us to item C, and that is our goal monitoring report for the month. Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. And a hard copy is delivered, I believe, at your desk, but also the first meeting is just to share information, and it's the second update of the outcome monitoring reading proficiency. It will demonstrate a critical need in regard to our student learning. And I'm going to walk through the report, and then the actual discussion will happen at the next meeting. Again, just as review, it lists the goal that the board has and the interim goal for which administration has addressed in meeting that goal. Again, it's with the FastBridge curriculum, which is curriculum-based measures. They're in K2, and they are really a suite of measures that are developmentally appropriate for reading skills that are predictive in nature, that predict a broad range of reading skills in the future. And so we had set that all students should meet these targets at 80%. Last time we reported on this, we could only report 2000 to 2001 data. And that's at the bottom there, the 38.5%, 37. The beginning of the year data did come in for fall, and it was in the below target category. And I want to share that the assessment there, you can take a look at it, but the color codes are the same, the process that we did. One of the things that I do want to share, I know we're not really discussing it, but so that you know, this assessment moves with time. So to give an example, for a kindergartner in the fall, the first assessment there that would have happened, their letter name, they would have had to have 14 or more letter names to be on. They would need to know letter names when pointed to within a minute to be on target. And in the winter, they would need to know 41. So from August, September to December, it grew. So the target did not stay stagnant. They had to continue to grow. So I want you to understand that about this assessment. But if you move on, the other indicators are there. We break it down by student groups, both by demographics and particularly student groups, whether it's special education, economically disadvantaged, very similar to reporting. At the bottom, it has on target, below target, and near target schools, the number of them. And you can take a look. And then in your white paper, we will actually report on those schools and also share examples of schools that have met the target and have not met the targets. These are very similar in the report. It's you'll start to notice the format in understanding where are we with the next steps. Those are the types of discussions we'll get into at our next meeting. This is the same, the goal, the instructional model, what's happening for kids, what's happening for staff to support the teaching and learning in our schools. And this is what's changed. And as you can see, there's more things completed in the to-do category for building capacity and competency in our work with young people. The reading proficiency also has particular goals that changed, and we didn't report on this before, but it is at this time. So I just want to share with you these data. It is called catch-up growth. And in the catch-up growth, in order for students to actually, we narrow the gap and have them achieve that 80%, if they're already behind and they only grow a year, they're still going to be behind in the next grade level. So they need to actually have accelerated growth, which we call catch-up growth. In the literature, it's called catch-up growth or accelerated growth. And what we want to look at is increase the number of kids who are making this catch-up growth. And as you know, the What I Need Now time in schools is specifically designed around that. And so the new data presented for this to have you really understand it is next. So above the top, I'm going to spend a little bit more time because you would not have seen this. So this is fall to winter reading growth at the grade level. You have the K1-2. The number of students tested in the fall, the number of students tested in the winter. We only looked at the kids who actually had 2 scores that we could look at to see, are we having kids making this catch-up growth? The students tested in both fall and winter. There were about 29,000 of them, which is a good sample. 95% of our kids took the fall and the winter. And then it gives you numbers of who are the students that tested below the fall benchmark, meaning that in the fall benchmark is at the 40th percentile. If you think about the bell curve, it's at the beginning of the bell curve, not even in the middle. So these are not extremely high academic. They're not scoring at the 80th percentile. It's the 40th percentile, which is the mean or the average scores there. And so 673 of them are actually making a catch-up growth in kindergarten. You'll see there. And then you'll see the first and second. But I wanted to share how to read those numbers and those data so that you would kind of understand and formulate your questions around that. We also broke that down into those same categories of demographics about who are the students making up the catch-up growth, as well as the student groups. So that explains the formatting of your report and kind of digs a little bit into eliciting the questions about where we are and what we're doing about it. And there's no sugarcoating it. ASD in our state of Alaska for a long time has been in a reading crisis. And this is something to get serious about. And just this week, Ed Week came out, which is a teacher's magazine, again, sharing again that balanced literacy that has been in over 50% of the country's schools is not scientifically evidence-based. And so I just want to share that when we put our teachers together to choose a reading program, we did choose a research-based one, so we're there. The next step is to ensure we're what's being taught is what's being learned as well. So thank you. That concludes the opening of the report.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Bishop. And I would just remind the board to send in your questions. So if anything popped in your head right now, just write it down, send it to Katie. So we'll have it, or just make a note so that you get it in for our conversation next meeting. And so that brings us to our public comment time. So before we begin this section of our meeting, I'd just like to make sure that everyone has picked up our little form that's at the door. It is just basically our audience participation rules and guidelines for how we engage within this space. And I'd also like to just make a few comments. We offer 2 opportunities to testify, one at the beginning and one at the end of our meeting if we don't get through everyone. We have set aside, as I stated earlier, the first part of our public testimony section for students who have signed up to speak. The reason for that is so that we can hear, of course, their wonderful voices and experiences, as well as get them home so that they can get that homework done. So the first hour, basically, everyone gets 3 minutes to testify. The board members will not answer questions during this time. Our role is to listen. That's not saying you cannot formulate a question, but please do not expect a response during public comment. It is a time for you to speak and the board to listen. Our board welcomes the public to observe and contribute to our meetings through their comments, but in order to be productive, our meetings must be structured and civil. We use the Robert's Rules of Order as to run our meetings in an orderly fashion. These rules require that the board and public be civil and respectful of each other's opinions and statements. And so here are a few requirements that I'd just like to highlight. Speakers may point out what he or she believes to be the natural consequences of a board action, but may not engage in speech that personally attack others. Please refrain from cheering, applause, or outbursts. And unless you are testifying, you must be polite to the board and other speakers. Well, even if you are testifying, actually. Attendees will not be permitted to interrupt the business of the board. And as we do in this space, we do ask that you do not use foul language or profanity of any kind. And finally, we do require masks. I appreciate everyone wearing their masks during and that includes during your testimony. And your mask must cover your mouth and nose unless you have a medical reason to be without a mask. No waving of signs, flyers, or posters. If you have items that you'd like for the board to have tonight, please hand them to Katie. She's seated to my left, and she will make sure that we get copies. And finally, as a board president, it is my duty to enforce these rules of civility and decorum. As such, I have the authority to rule any speaker out of order for violation of these rules and others. Further, I will have removed from the meeting anyone who does not heed these rules and fails to conduct themselves in a civil manner. And with that, we are going to start our testimony. We're going to start with Benjamin Strauss. Benjamin is in person. Welcome, Benjamin. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, board members.
Yes, it's on.
Good evening, board members. My name is Benjamin Strauss, and I am a freshman at West Anchorage High School. As we approach the 2-year anniversary for the first documented COVID-19 case in Alaska, proper mandating protocols in the Anchorage School District are more essential than ever. I've seen firsthand that mask wearing in schools has greatly benefited the learning environment and mentality for students. In this past semester, I have experienced the support masking has brought to student health, especially students who are immune compromised or have immunocompromised loved ones in their life. I have also found that I can focus on learning more easily with masking, rather than worrying about if the person next to me is vaccinated. However, disposing of the mask mandate in schools would detrimentally affect the learning situation that our school district had worked hard to create these past 2 years, including the journey to in-person learning. I'm concerned that virus transmission would also be substantially increased if masks were not mandated or enforced, given the fact that the Anchorage teen vaccination rate is 53% and the 5 to 12-year-old vaccination rate is only 17%. Furthermore, without masking, I worry that the highly transmissible Omicron variant could cause a mass outbreak in schools, which would dramatically impact attendance and learning. Thank you for considering my request for continued masking in our schools to support the health, wellness, and safety of students, staff, and the community.
Thank you, Benjamin. Next, we have Kristen Ryder in person. Kristen? Not here? Okay, thank you. We'll go on to Lise Christensen, telephonic. Is she in the queue? Lise, are you in the queue? It's star six. Yes, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, my name is Lisa Christensen. I am president and CEO of the Alaska World Affairs Council, and I was born and raised in Anchorage. I'm an ASD grad of Betty Davis East Anchorage High School, and I am here on the phone to talk with you about the Alaska World Affairs Council. I'm also joined in the audience by Siobhan Choi, who is there with you in person. If she can come forward and hand out a brochure to each of you about the Alaska World Affairs Council, that'd be very helpful. We at the Alaska World Affairs Council just wanted to check in, let you know about the exciting things we are doing for our local youth in case we're not on your radar. The Alaska World Affairs Council is a nonprofit educational organization. We're dedicated to increasing all of our global competency. And we've been here in Alaska longer than Alaska's been a state. And like the Anchorage School District, we are dedicated to educating youth by helping with college and career readiness, with programs that feature a diverse lineup of world-class leaders from around the world, equitable educational opportunities for all students in the district by making them all free for students so there's no cost barrier. And we started 5 years ago a program called Speed Mentoring, which celebrates and enhances a diverse and highly professional workforce. We have Brandon Locke, who's the Director of World Languages, on our board currently, which we're very excited about, and Dr. Dina Bishop, who's been a wonderful advocate and impressive participant in so many of our programs, as has her predecessors. And in case you're not familiar with what we do, I'd like to mention 3 programs that we have focused for high school students: the upcoming Academic World Class Competition, Speed Mentoring, and our Global Leader Lunch programs. As I mentioned earlier, all of these opportunities are free for students. The challenge we have is getting the information about these programs to students and encouraging teachers to participate. Next month is Academic World Quest, which is a rigorous competition that tests high school teams of 4 students on their global knowledge, including geography, current events, foreign affairs, and we're trying to help prepare our youth for the globally interconnected world of the 21st century. This event will be held at the Beartooth, where the winning team of 4 students will, if God willing and COVID willing, be able to go to Washington, D.C. to compete in the national competition. Normally, we fill the Beartooth Theater with hundreds of students from across the Anchorage School District. However, this year, it doesn't appear that teachers and students have this on the radar. So we really appreciate any ideas you may have for us about help to reach out to teachers and students. So any help you can provide would be so wonderful. Another program, Speed Mentoring, will be held here at the ASD Anchorage Center boardroom on March 23rd. And it matches professionals from our community with students in a fast-paced, fun environment. You can think speed dating, where students who are thinking about life.
Thank you very much. And we did get your hand up. Thank you, Lisa. Next, we have David Dowd, telephonic. You see David Dowd? Okay, we'll try to come back if there's time. Tom Kubik, in person. Okay. Don Buckelman, in person. Welcome, Don. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me speak again today. My name is Dawn Balkman, and I'm here again both as a teacher and a mother. I want to begin by saying how disappointed I am in the decision to overturn the January 3rd date that was made, or that was to make masking in schools optional. I've listened to the reasons, a few of which sounded pretty rational, but the overwhelming majority of which don't. So to those of you listening today, teachers, admin, community, what is the one solid thing you think that we need to accomplish before we reach the point where individuals are able to decide whether or not to mask for themselves instead of being mandated to? What is the point where we stop having a moving target as a goalpost? It can't be to protect the unvaccinated because that isn't your responsibility. Those that are unvaccinated have made their choice, and it's likely that no amount of condemnation on your part is going to change that. It can't be to protect the under 5 crowd. I don't think I need to provide the stats on that. I'm sure you are all aware. It can't be because case counts are up, because my counter to that would be to ask you, why exactly are we still focusing on case counts instead of case severity? It can't be to protect the immunocompromised members of the community that couldn't take the vaccine, because I believe that those people are well aware of their situation, and between them and their families, they are most certainly looking after their own health as well. After a year and a half of listening to school board meetings, I want to say that I have zero faith that masks will be coming off this year. Will the vote count change a little? Very possible. But at the end of the day, I know that many of you are harboring the reasons I've just spoken of as holding points to keep the mandate in place, and for some odd reason feel that your position is one that should allow you to make important decisions such as this for other adults and families that aren't your own. I'm asking and will continue to ask that you reconsider this as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Next, we have Ashley Mark in person. Ashley Mark. Next, we'll go to the telephone, Danielle Kemp. Mr. Kemp, *6 to unmute.
All right. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. All right, thank you. My name is Danielle Kemp. I am a retired Army combat officer and teacher in the ASD and parent of 2 ASD students. I am also the president and co-founder of the Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators. And I have some questions for the board tonight and the ASD administration. What have the current administration, ASD administration, done to increase the diversity of our educator workforce? What have they done in the last 5 years that they've been in power? Nothing. All they've done is basically talk. Why haven't they made any progress to this end in all that time? It's not like they don't understand that representation matters to our students. I can't count the amount of times I've heard the phrase, quote unquote, representation matters, come from that direction. We can debate the why all day long, but there's no disputing the what, which is zero. Zip, zilch. Absolutely no change to teacher diversity. Since still, it's 85+% white. And then there's the matter of our curriculum. The amount of historical misrepresentation and omission going on is inexcusable. The sheer volume of testimony given on this subject would drown us for days if it was converted to water. I've written to you and provided examples and suggested changes. IU Kuzatok has written to you and provided examples and suggested changes. The Gals crew has written to you, provided examples and suggested changes. The Alaska Black Caucus has written to you, provided examples and suggested changes. The First Alaskans Institute has written to you, provided examples and suggested changes. The NAACP has written to you, provided examples and suggested changes. And the list goes on and on and on. The district was even supposed to roll out the new Alaska Native History curriculum, the Nest Egg, this year. Haven't seen a hide or hair of that. Where's the Nest Egg curriculum? Is this another failure of the administration? To all the equity-minded taxpayers listening, look, the board will choose a new superintendent this year. With that pick comes the new chiefs of the ASD administration. If you want a superintendent who won't placate our community with hollow rhetoric and empty promises, but instead deliver a curriculum which portrays the true history, contributions, and culture of its residents and students of color, as well as hiring and retaining an educator workforce that actually reflects and represents the same diversity instead of the almost all-white one we currently have, then you need to make your voice heard in both testimony and the new superintendent survey that's due by February 1st. Thank you for your time and have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Moving on, in person, we have Susan Reed. Welcome, Susan. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Susan Reed, and I am a retired ASD choir drama teacher and a graduate of Betty Davis East High School. I'm also a member of the Alaska Black Caucus. I'm a frequent collaborator in high school choir classes, a witness to the joy and commitment of the students and staff. Kids need the arts more than ever right now. I was relieved that masking is still mandated as schools reopened yesterday. Holiday gatherings, travel, plus the arrival of Omicron are having an impact. Masking is our best defense, as well as encouraging families to get vaccinated. In November, the treble All-State Honor Choir met for 3 days here. Some of these kids came from districts that have not required masking, but everyone followed ASD policy to mask in rehearsals. However, the ASD has a policy that concerts can be presented without masks. This makes no sense to me and some music teachers and parents, as singing is a super spreader and we are not socially distancing. The ASD choirs I perform with all masked at their concerts first semester in solidarity to ensure safety for the immunocompromised and for all. Our brilliant, empathetic guest all-state conductor, Dr. Beacon, was approached by several of the girls and by me as the pianist in front of them with concerns about concert unmasking. He got real with the kids, asked them to think about how their choice to unmask might affect others, and that if there was even one person who would feel unsafe or even worse, unable to sing at the concert if masking was optional, is it worth it to add that fear and divisiveness to our journey together? Those wonderful young people unified as a caring community, every single student in the group proudly masked and gave an unforgettable performance. They exemplified that responsibility to each other in a democracy and a public health crisis takes precedence over individual choice. We know BIPOC communities are the hardest hit. Medical professionals are tired but carry on. Please keep protocols in place after January 15th to protect kids and our hardworking teachers who are so stressed. There is a sub-shortage. Morale with teachers is sinking. In the ASD, teachers still have no contract, and our state offers the worst retirement program in the United States. We are about to lose another large number of teachers at a time of a national teacher shortage. The state legislature convenes soon. It's time to get vocal, get mad, and demand funding and action so we can retain staff with fair salaries and benefits, plus attract new teachers, especially more teachers of color. Without supporting teachers, we cannot hope to meet the needs of every precious, unique student and keep everyone healthy. Thank you so much. You have a hard job, but it's an important and necessary one. Please keep our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Let's go back to Ashley Mark. Hi, Ashley. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not any good at this, so I'm just going to give it my best shot. I want to talk to you about hopefully returning to Parents' Choice masking on January 15th. I have a beautiful, wonderful kindergarten daughter who is my entire existence, and her welcome to Anchorage School District was her kindergarten teacher locking her out of the building on opening day. My daughter has sensory processing issues, and I got all of the required paperwork, everything processed, but her teacher was so afraid of her, she locked her out of the classroom. And I don't mean out of the classroom, I mean out of the school. I had to stand on the playground with my daughter until the principal came in and said, no, we don't do this. And luckily, I was able to change classrooms with my daughter and get her into a different classroom in a different setup. But still, she's ostracized from her peers because she can't wear a mask. Other teachers who don't work with her every day look at her with fear. They won't touch her. They won't interact with her at all. And it's just served to separate her continually. And it's heartbreaking to see as a parent because the number one thing my child needs to work on is social skills. And the other students pick up on that and they see their teachers afraid to interact with her. And so they don't want to either. And so I feel like if we started to allow children to make their own choice, she would no longer be as separated from her peers. And they would see her as one of them. And so, yeah, I'm asking for Parents' Choice mandate to be allowed January 15th. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Moving on, in person, we have Mary Richards. Welcome, Mary. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you. First of all, thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing. You don't get enough thanks and appreciation, and I really respect each and every one of you and want to thank you. And also, I think I'm allowed to say this, but coming off if I'm not, I really appreciate people who come out and testify who aren't comfortable doing that. So, Ashley, nice job, right? A community, we come together, we support each other, we listen deeply to one another. It's one of the greatest sources of joy I think there can be. So I wasn't able to come at the last meeting. I wanted to let you know, though, that I really do support all the testimony against the parent choice masking. It's not time to do that yet, and I really am glad that the school board decided to make the decision to put it off. But I will say that it's causing confusion. So like yesterday when I am a teacher. You probably know that already. I'm also a member of the Alaska Black Caucus, so I'm here on behalf of that organization. I'm also a member of the Alaska Coalition for BIPOC Educators. And I'm also the co-director of the Alaska Writing Project, and I'm a mom. Sorry, I forgot to put all that in there. So yesterday, I had students coming into my school and into my classroom thinking that the mask mandate had been eradicated, and it caused a lot of confusion. My administrator did a great job of, clarifying things, but I'm wondering why notification wasn't sent out to parents and families and students, because we got it as a staff, but our families and kids did not. And so I think that caused a lot of confusion. There was a great amount of anxiety and stress for children, families, and staff over the break. And you know as well as I do that that is a time that we needed to relax and rejuvenate. So I'm wondering why the decision was made on the Friday before break. I just think that is careless and hopefully not intentional, but really we have to be thinking about each other at all times. We have to be thinking about what's going to keep us together, what's going to keep us strong. A decision like that doesn't, because what happened with many of us is that we were at home for 2 weeks being stressed out and wondering what's going to happen, right? I know I'm going to run out of time. It's all right. The last thing I want to say is masks are really working. They really are. And there's too much spread, and we need to just be patient. I know we all have fatigue, but hang in there. You're doing a great job. We care about you. I know it's a tough job, but don't let us down. Keep everyone safe. And
thank you. Thank you, Mary. Next, we're going to the telephone. Niall Sherwood Williams. Mr. Williams, *6 to unmute.
Hello, can the board hear me?
Yes, we can. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, yes, Niall Sherwood Williams, resident of Anchorage, Alaska, United States of America, planet Earth. To address the board, first of all, I don't appreciate any prior restraint from Secretary Katie Grant. Please don't ring the bell. I'm a grown man. I can keep track of my own time. Thank you. Next, when we're talking about putting medical devices on children, you better stay out of the way of parenting and realize that children have the right to privacy. They have the right to choose to not put a medical device on their face. Teachers, they're not doctors. So it's a felony in all 50 states for a non-doctor to prescribe a medical device, which if you tell or coerce or intimidate a child to wear that face diaper, that mask, that's actually a violation of the law. You're acting as a doctor, and you're not a licensed doctor in the state of Alaska, nor any other state, I don't think. Otherwise, you'd be making money as a doctor and not complaining about your contracts. Through the chair of the teachers union, we need to work to abolish public sector unions, which bloat the cost of education and leave the children less intelligent, less civically engaged, And if you can't even read the Constitution and understand the Bill of Rights because you don't know how to read and write cursive, you got a real problem there. So how about if the teachers strike, y'all can come down to Cuddy Park or at the Lusac Library. I can host classes on the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. We can learn about our founding documents together. Stop threatening to shut schools down, you tyrants. I mean, are you actually working for the kids, or are you working to serve money and your unions and your political donors? Shoot it straight to us. Why did they issue this mass change on a Friday? Because they wanted trouble with the kids. They wanted Sergeant Reynolds through the chair over at West High School to be able to beat some more kids up like he likes to do.
Point of order, that's a member of the staff.
Point well taken. Mr. Williams, please do not attack individuals. You may continue.
Oh, that was not attack. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me, Madam Chair.
You have 30 seconds, 28 seconds left.
Refrain from the prior restraint of the bell. Thank you. So, children, take your masks off. Teachers unions, if you want to strike, just quit. Leave your job. If you don't like teaching, leave. You're not parents, you're meant to educate the students.
Your time is up, Mr. Williams. Thank you very much. Continuing, we have Jeffrey Mayfield. He's telephonically. Mr. Mayfield, it's *6 to unmute.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. You have 3 minutes. Sorry. Just three. Thank you.
Okay. Oh no, 1 second. Okay. Okay. My name is Jeffrey Mayfield. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the Anchorage School Board. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. While I know the school district's masking policy is not an action item tonight, this is my only opportunity to address the subject prior to the January 15th reconsideration date set at the last meeting. I fully support requiring masks in school. In fact, I plead with you and the superintendent to keep the masking policy until a time when a consensus of pediatric medical professionals can deem it safe to remove it. I have a child in the district and I'm also a substitute teacher. While the removal of the policy will not change the fact that my son will attend in-person school, it will affect my decision to sub. I know that subs are in dire need right now in neighborhood schools and throughout the district, and I want to help. I don't sub for the money, I sub to help the kids and the teachers at my neighborhood school. If masking isn't required, then I will be exposed to around 300 kids in a week, as opposed to my child being exposed to about 24 kids throughout his classroom. Most of these kids would be unmasked. This is an unacceptable risk to my family and I. When I weigh my duties in helping my elderly family members, I would have to decline subbing at my school. This would hurt our students. Ultimately, though, even though I plead with you because I have to, this decision shouldn't even be up for debate within a governing body. We should rely on the best medical advice available and make decisions accordingly. The Alaska chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, in a letter directed to the school board, stated, "It's imperative that we protect our children by requiring masks in the setting where they spend the majority of their day." With my remaining time, I would like to thank our teachers who are still working without a contract to give their all for our students every day. You are all heroes who give students a place where they feel safe and welcome in a time of turmoil. And thank you all for all you do. Thank you. My testimony is up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayfield. Next, we have Dr. Paula Williams, telephonically. *6 to unmute. Dr. Williams? I see that you are unmuted, but we cannot hear you. Well, your phone is unmuted. Okay, Dr. Williams, we'll circle back. Next in person, we have Heather Land. Heather Land. Okay, in person, Rich Kurtner. Welcome, Mr. Kurtner. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ed, and I don't think I'll need 3 minutes, but good evening, everybody. My name is Rich Kurtner. I am a member of the Alaska Black Caucus, and I put my children into the school system here. I entered them in 1987. And so over the years, I've done a lot of coaching, volunteer work with this school system, and so I just want to commend the board for its decision on masking and support that. I know that it's a tough decision, but especially with the tsunami of this new variant that's come across and the vulnerability of young people, I think that's definitely the right decision. And I'm an advocate for the youth of this community. I'm an advocate for the teachers of this community, and I'm an advocate for you folks. And I'm glad, and I want to commend you for standing up and for the safety of our teachers, our students, and the whole community. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and keep us safe.
Thank you, Mr. Kurtner. Next in person, we have Christina Kluver. Oh, thank you. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Christina Kluber. I'm a mother of 3 girls currently here in the ASD system. I'm here to give my testimony against the mask mandates. I know you've all been hearing a lot about this subject. It's obvious that there are many people, especially those working within the school district, that want the masks. I'm not here to bash them, but I'm also here to represent my kids and how I feel. I'm originally from Colorado. My mom was a teacher for 20 years. She started middle school and eventually moved to high school. I love teachers. They're amazing, but I've lost faith in our school systems. It's a constant push between both sides, and we've forgotten about the kids. These mask mandates are not for the kids. They're for you guys. My oldest daughter has anxiety attacks. When she gets the attacks, she becomes hot, sweaty. She starts to panic. She has to get permission to take mini breaks to take off her mask and cool off. She has to leave the classroom for a few minutes. Being in middle school is hard enough. We all remember that. But having anxiety and having a piece of cloth across your face, keeping you from fresh air, is cruel. My youngest daughter is 4. She just started speech therapy through ASD. She struggles with her main consonant sounds, combinations like C's, SNs, and J sounds. She goes to speech therapy every week and has to wear a mask. She's literally supposed to be learning sounds, reading lips, and facial expressions, and yet she has a teacher and herself, and they have a mask on. You have to understand how utterly ridiculous this is. Watching my 6-year-old in her Christmas concert, thinking they'd be allowed to sing without the masks, and all their faces, their beautiful faces, are covered with these masks. I know I probably don't align with a lot of you politically, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that we don't care about the health of others. I'm vaccinated. My husband is not. We all have to make the best decisions for ourselves and our children. We all know COVID is real, but we are not where we were 2 years ago. We have vaccines for those that want it, in-school testing, at-home test, better hospital treatments. COVID is going to be around forever. We're all going to be exposed to it or have it at some point. There is absolutely no way around that, but we have to have progress and we have to move forward. When my kids ask me when COVID's going to be over, I tell them it never is. I'm not going to let them live in fear. We all have to move forward. And I beg that you guys also do that you not let us all live in fear, that you make progress and you start allowing us to make the best choices for ourselves and our kids. I know it's a tough job, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. Let's go back up to, I think the only one that we're missing now is Dr. Paula Williams. Telephonically, Dr. Williams, can you try to unmute?
Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Dr. Paula Williams. I'm a proud member of the Alaska Black Caucus, and I'm also Alaska Black Caucus Parent Education Chair. And I want to say thank you on this evening to our superintendent as well as our school board, because you guys have worked long and hard over this past year. And I know because we have stood with you in arm's length to get many policies passed in this year. And I'm here on this evening because I want to say we stood with you all, with the community, with our students, with our parents, and we came out in record number to say, yes, we are for masking, mandated masking. And I'm saying on this evening, I am still 100% for mandated masking in our school systems, amongst our teachers, amongst our students, amongst our parents, and anyone else who enter into that school system. I'm also very concerned too in relation to our teachers still not having contracts. Our teachers are important and we need to let them know that they're important, and we need to put in place counsel for our teachers so they know that they're not alone, they have someone to support them. Their benefits are important, and it's important enough that we ourselves should be working hard, hard to make sure that our teachers have adequate salaries, that they have adequate benefits, and not only they have adequate benefits, but we need to put back in place our subs. There are times when our teachers will need to be out of their classrooms. And when they're out of their classroom, because they are concerned about the students who are still there, they want to make sure that their students are getting and being taught the way they would be taught if they were still in that classroom, but also know there's someone to cover them when they have a need to be away from the classroom. So again, I'm saying I'm 100% for mandating. I'm 100% for recruiting teachers of color. This is of the utmost importance now in our Anchorage school district that we have teachers of color within their systems. Our students need that. And it is sensitive and is known that when we have teachers in color, not some students, but all students thrive and they do well. Because teachers of color has a tendency to hold our youth to a higher standard. And at this point, I'm going to say thank you for the time that you've allowed me this evening. I'm not coming up with a whole lot of eloquent words, but with sincerity of heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. Next, we have Celeste Hodge Groudon, telephonically. *6 to unmute.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Great. Good evening and Happy New Year, members of the Anchorage School Board and Superintendent Bishop. Thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight. I am Celeste Hodge Groudon, President and CEO of the Alaska Black Caucus. We are a nonpartisan organization that advocates for the rights of Black people in the areas of health, justice, economics, and yes, education. On March 2nd, 2021, I testified about the need to mandate masks within the schools. In fact, here's exactly what I shared. Thank you, Superintendent, for standing firm on mask policy, following criticism from individuals who clearly don't get it. You could have yielded and crumbled from intimidation, but you didn't. Instead, you stood firm as the strong woman you are, which speaks volumes. And it is exactly what the late Congressman John Lewis meant by getting in good and necessary trouble. So thank you for implementing the most recent American of Pediatric guidelines for mask use in schools. Again, those words were part of my testimony at the March 2021 board meeting. Unfortunately, as we know, the superintendent's viewpoint changed and there was an attempt to make masks optional. I'm not sure why, or for that matter, don't really care. However, I'm thankful the school board stood firm as a strong group they are and didn't crumble from intimidation, but moved forward and mandated masks for the safety of our children, teachers, and staff. The reality is, with an increased immune response from boosters and vaccinations, people should have improved protection against getting infected. While COVID vaccinations and boosters are a major step forward, it does not guarantee individuals will no longer pick up or pass the virus on to others. We see that with breakthrough cases. However, having a second layer of protection, regardless of vaccination status, can be valuable in preventing viral spread. That is why the CDC still recommends masks universally be worn in indoor school setting by those aged 2 and up. I urge the school board to maintain the mask mandate for the safety of our students, teachers, and staff, and to take it a step further, require vaccinations and boosters for staff and teachers. Again, thank you for doing the right thing.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hodge-Browden. Next, we have Rosalind Grady Weish. Telephonically, Rosalind.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Roz, the Vice President and founder of the Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators. I'm a paraprofessional and a member of the Totem Association, and I'm a mother of 5, all a product of ASD and from elementary to high school. It's a new year and a new day, and thank you, school board, for speaking up for the people of ASD. My Monday back with the kids was great, but it was exhausting. I think you should know that, but when I'm hearing about Whaley, it saddens my heart. I would also like to know what exactly are the mitigations that are in place and how come it is not easily accessible. I would like to know why you think the current mitigations, besides wearing masks, are okay when they were mitigations for the start of school and relaxed over time. And again, where are they? So I, as an employee, parent, and community leader, can go look at them and refresh my memory. Last email I saw that had been sent out, the nurse said that if a child was positive and their siblings weren't, those that didn't show signs of symptoms could go back to school, even though they had a positive case within the household. That is beyond bogus, especially when 4 out of 5 of my children contracted COVID within the household, had no symptoms, and then the last one got it 2 weeks later. According to a CDC post today, since we're changing mitigation because of the CDC, they said to parents that if your child tests positive for COVID-19 or is a close contact of someone who has tested positive, you and your child may be asked to participate in contact tracing to help slow the spread of the virus in your community. So that quick update email that was just sent out, I hope that gets added to it as well. Also, what is the disinfecting process? Is it just up to us educators to disinfect our classrooms every day? Were the classrooms disinfected when we went on Christmas break? I mean, COVID isn't fake and Omicron didn't just become a variant. It was here before Christmas break. I know I was ignorant to the facts when I was unvaccinated and caught COVID, but I almost died. Never again will I ignore science. God and science is why I am here today. I almost selfishly left 5 kids alone in the world. And I know better than anyone how COVID negatively impacted my own home as an unvaccinated educator. My children almost lost out on me and those weeks at school. My high schooler lost out on a total of 4 weeks back to back and could barely recover. I also talked to a student today that I had to hold while she was crying about how her grandfather and her cousins died from COVID over Christmas break. I believe this is her 6th family member she has lost. COVID isn't where it was 2 years ago because it keeps mutating into something worse. Then the first and then the first. So please get the mitigations transparent so that my principal can instruct me and the community and our students on how to stay safe and continue to be safe and continue to keep us safe. Continue to make the best choices for our kids. I wouldn't ask nothing less of you and with nobody else on these calls that is positively supporting you in the wake of COVID. I appreciate you guys for listening to me once again. Happy New Year. It's a new day.
Thank you very much, Ms. Weish. Next, our final person to sign up for tonight telephonically is Francine Reuter. I don't see a Francine Reuter, do you? Okay. All right, that concludes our public comment. And that brings us back to our agenda. I would like to make sure that the public understands that written public testimony is also attached to the agenda. When you look at the agenda online, you will see written public testimony that have come in. Item E, 1 through 6. Our consent agenda.
Madam President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as listed on the main agenda.
Is there a second? Moved and second to approve the consent agenda. That's items E1 through 6 on your agenda. Is there any opposition to, I'm sorry, since we have a board member that's not in the boardroom, we will have to vote. So please indicate your vote.
Member Wilson?
It's a voice vote.
Yes. Member Lessons?
Yes.
Member Jacobs?
Yes.
Member Holloman?
Yes.
Member Higgins? Member Donnelly?
Yes.
President Bellamy?
Yes. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item F.
Madam President, I move we approve ASD Memorandum Number 062, revision to School Board Policy, Board Bylaws 9323, Meeting Conduct, Parliamentary Procedure.
Second.
Okay, moved in second to approve. And any discussion? Yes, Member Jacobson.
Thank you, Madam President. So first is just as a recap for the boards, the board reminder, this is a memorandum which came out of an effort to streamline our meetings and make them more efficient and allow the superintendent a basic level of interaction that is currently utilized, but also incorporating Robert's rules into the superintendent's interaction and codifying that in our board bylaws. Since our last meeting at the request of Member Donnelly, yourself, Madam President, I, as well as Member Donnelly, met with the municipal attorney Patrick Burke, who confirmed after a review of the Memorandum 62 and attached revision that there were no concerns related to municipal charter. That dovetails with the legal opinion that we obtained from our council, which confirmed that there were no related concerns with Alaska statute, and guidance we've received from our parliamentarian, which indicated that they've encouraged boards to adopt language which allows the superintendent to at least make a point of order, and noted that multiple local government entities within the state of Washington have moved in this direction. With that said, after having conversations with Member Donnelly, I have an amendment which I'll move and then further discuss if there's a second to clear up the language to make the intent very explicit. And Katie, I did send this to you via email. So with that said, I move to amend the revision of Board Bylaws 9323, Meeting Conduct, as proposed in ASD Memorandum 62, by replacing the words incidental motions with points of order, information, and personal privilege.
Second.
Okay.
Madam President, may I speak?
It's been moved in second, so yes, you may speak to your motion.
Specifically regarding
your amendment.
The amendment to the board bylaws revision outlined in Memo 62. This would make the intent of the revision clear and remove hopefully any concern related to what was discussed last meeting about other incidental motions which the superintendent likely would never make, such as postponing debate on an item or something like that. So I hope that this makes the intent of the revision clear and avoids any concern from any member here, and really just focuses on an attempt to streamline future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Jacobs. Anybody else want to speak to the motion? Seeing none. Oh, did you?
I appreciate the specificity. Thank you.
Thank you. It took a little work, but it was worth it. So let's vote. Katie, whenever you're ready.
Member Holloman.
Yes.
Member Higgins. Member Jacobs.
Yes.
Member Donnelly?
Yes.
Member Lessons?
Yes.
Member Wilson?
Yes.
President Bellamy?
Yes. And that passes unanimously. So that brings us back to the main motion, right, Katie? As amended. And that now a motion, memo 62 now reads, we are replacing the words incidental motions with points of order, information, and personal privilege. Is that the only, we're striking incidental motions and replacing it with points of order, correct?
That is amending the language on the policy. The
Just
actual
in the memo. In memo 62.
So the recommendation was to approve revisions, and so it would be the main motion as amended. I just want to make sure that this is correct for the board.
Yes, that is correct. Okay. So now we'll vote on the motion, the main motion as amended. Got it. All right, we can vote.
Member Donnelly?
Yes.
Member Higgins? Yes. Member Wilson?
Yes.
Member Lessons?
Yes.
Member Jacobs?
Yes.
Member Holloman?
Yes.
President Bellamy?
Yes. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Memo 062 passes unanimously as amended. All right. I would like to thank Katie and Carl, and of course the mayor's office for their time, because it took time. Thank you, as well as other board members. All righty, so we are now at our non-action items. These will come back to you next week. 3 of them are informational only. I'm not seeing anybody wanting to pull anything. Do we have any other public testimony, Katie? Not that I'm aware of either. Thank you. So that brings us to item I, Superintendent Update. Dr. Bishop.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I am going to update you on 3 items, and they are all in regard to healthcare services and COVID and mitigation. I had sent out, and I think it was referenced about families not being updated, but as you know, after the last meeting, I updated families in regard to that. So I think the employee might have dismissed that. Notice of the mask mandate. As we know, those teenagers sometimes remember what they want. At least mine did. The 3 things I want to share is the CDC just today came out with the K-12 schools recommendations, so that we had been holding off on their new recommendations for quarantine and isolation. Understanding from our state epidemiologists that more information would come out. We weren't sure if it would stay the same. It was listed today as consistent with prior recommendations from the CDC. So tomorrow we're going to work with our nurses and principals and update our guidance. It's also mentioned just because I have an opportunity that anything COVID, the mitigation, the procedures, everything can be found on our website, and we put it on a fancy little quick link called Hot Topics COVID, and anything. You can even look up cases in schools if you want. So that's always there for you. That was also mentioned in testimony. But I am delighted. So that will come to you. We'll update the board with that as we find out more information and articulate that, update our documents, things like that. But the other 2 things I'd like to say are 2 really good things. I'd like to introduce you to our new senior director. We're delighted, Kate McClelland. I'm going to ask her to come up and come to the podium and introduce herself a little bit. She not only has, she has mental health service background as well as health service background, and just a delight. I was able to interview her and immediately knew that she would be excellent addition to our team here. And so just this week was her first week on Monday. So this is her second day of work. So thanks. We've met with her quite a bit, but her official day was yesterday. And I'm going to allow her to update herself and chat a little bit. And then I'm going to request Tom Roth to come up, and both of Kate McClellan and Tom Roth can share the good news in regard to our grant, receiving our grant from the state, and how we're going to expend that, the recommendations. So I turn it over to you, Ms. McClellan. Take over.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for allowing me to come up and share a little bit about myself. I felt like this was kind of planned strategically, that I'd get to come up here my second day. I wonder if everybody gets this opportunity. But again, my name is Caitlin McClellan. I'm on my second day. I'm a licensed clinical social work, so I have my master's in social work. And then my clinical licensure, I've worked for the past little over 10 years in the community behavioral health sector, including integrated settings, so settings where we serve both physical and behavioral health. I was really excited at the opportunity to join the ASD team because I am also a parent. I have 2 kids in the Anchorage School District, one in an immersion program and one in a neighborhood school. And so as a mother, I have a unique stake in the success of our kids and our schools. And I've dedicated my life to serving our next generation, so specifically youth in behavioral health and integrated settings. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to join with all of you guys. And I thank you for your service and the opportunity to join this team.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you would remain, and we're just going to request Tom Roth to come forward and share the good news. As we have been keeping the board updated, there were state grants that were attractive to ASD in some areas, but not in others. And part of that was being responsible for more than really our mission. It was the greater community. And while we have participated in supporting the greater community through our vaccination clinics and some other things, part of this grant and the requirements prior to the new grant release were not of interest to us. So we did not want to, but with good news, when the grant changed, we jumped on it. I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop, through the president. So just to kind of give a very brief history, many of the board members may be aware that several months back, there was an offer from the Department of Health and Social Services for a grant in the amount of $5.5 million. It was focused on testing to keep schools open. The grant came with certain requirements that at the time the district was not able to support, specifically an expansion in surveillance testing and then extending testing to private schools in the municipality. And as we discussed previously, it was a bridge too far for the nursing staff. And that is still the case. But on the 10th of December, we were contacted by the DHSS, and specifically in that they were offering this grant, but that there were no additional conditions. So through the efforts of several team members, some of whom are here, some are not, but I'll just identify a couple. Ms. Shannon Razik, who works in maintenance, Mr. Dave Whiting, our Senior Director for Purchasing Warehouse, Mr. Vikalis, Nurse Kathy Bell, who is here. They all collaborated together and submitted a proposal. Long story short, the district has been approved to receive this $5.5 million grant, and our intent is to spend it all. We do have some constraints, some limitations. It is a federal grant, so in order to be eligible to receive grant money, we have to make sure that we are compliant, and to be sure we will be with all federal regulations for grants. But our intent, and it's really kind of opportune, that the intent of the grant is to direct it towards COVID mitigation measures. And as we've learned, our nurses spend a very significant amount of their time addressing COVID mitigation. So we're going to apply about 75% of their salaries to this grant, which is great because it takes some significant pressure off our general fund. We think that amounts to about $3.5 million. We're also going to use this money to facilitate the courier service for movement of samples, specimen samples of the testing that we are doing in schools. And we're also looking to make sure that the district is healthy in all of our PPE moving forward. So again, our intent is to spend this money. We have to have it spent by the end of May this year. And what that does is it does make some limitations in terms of contracting. But again, I think we've got a very solid plan to spend this very generous grant. And Madam President, I'll pause and happily entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Questions? Member Jacobs?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick question regarding PPE and use of masks, face shields, I'm sorry. Are we still utilizing those in school locations? Do we have an adequate supply? I had contact with one of our educators for our youngest learners who indicated that they might not have everything that they need in the classroom. So I'm curious if that's due to a shortage of supplies or if maybe there just needs to be a better connection there that I can pass on to staff to facilitate.
Through the president to Member Jacobs. Thank you for that, and it's a great question. So the district is and will continue to resource masks, disposable masks, as well as the cloth masks for staff and students. I had a recent query from our Totem bargaining group president on that same question a couple weeks ago. So I asked Mr. Whiting and his team to research the volume or the numbers of masks that we have, and I forget the exact number, but to be sure, we have a lot of masks. All it requires is for schools to request through a automated system.
Do we have face shields as well? I think that was the
face
question.
Shields, right?
Yes. So including face shields, yes, we have plenty, and they should go through their principal.
Yeah. So I guess my bottom line comment on that is we are, and I'll say that it's really the warehouse. It's Mr. Bart Kendall. We are maintaining our supplies, and whenever we get close to running out of anything, they're very diligent in ordering and receiving supplies.
Okay. Member Lessons, your question.
Thank you. I guess it's a follow-up question on sort of the use of, or on the framework of PPE. Omicron is here, and I think that I know that high quality masks are going to do better at protecting staff than cloth masks. To what extent are N95s available to staff members who would want them, and could they be acquired through this grant very soon?
Through the president to Member Lessons. The immediate answer is I don't know. But I'm happy to go back and research that. I don't believe we have a large number of N95 masks. Generally speaking, those have been allocated to our nursing staff. So, sometimes in some of these items like the N95, there is a very significant demand for those globally. So I can't speak to their availability. But if there's a request, and particularly if it's coming through a nurse to us for special requests, then we're absolutely prepared to look into and accommodate those.
Okay. Member Wilson. I'm sorry. Member Higgins, and then Wilson.
I think she was ahead of me.
No, she wasn't.
I just wanted to second Member Lessons concerned about the issue of the N95. I've been reading about that. I've seen the issue of what is achieving and what is not achieving, and the impact of the number of infections with young people today, and that the N95 was critical. And I know that My daughter had done research about things getting online. She ordered those, was able to get them. But I am concerned that when I go to different schools, they all have different types of masks. It's like, they're all over the place, and it seems like one would be a better answer than the other, even if it's not an N95. So I guess the input from a medical perspective of make sure that's consistent is one of my concerns. The other is we heard two people tonight talk about the impact of their students or their child not being able to wear a mask and other issues. Now, we're using the face shield for that if they've got a medical, or what are we doing for them?
So probably others better qualified to speak to that.
Sure. I can do that through special education as well as through the principal. The request is reviewed by the nurse, the IEP team. And yes, we do supply face shields, especially for speech language. As well, you can walk through a school and you'll see some adults as well as children. But the requests are made again through the special requests like that, nurses, principals, and the special education department. So we funnel them all up, have the documentation. So the answer to that is yes, yes, and yes, and they are here. And when you hear things, we just want folks to go. We don't have one set mask because we allow mask choice in what you want to wear. This board has chosen many different mask types, as well as some people, especially children, have their personality come out in their masks. And I would hate to dictate to our kids and employees the kind of mask that they have to wear. Certainly, I wouldn't even want to go there.
And if I might just add to that, to Dr. Bishop's comment, I guess, we've been dealing with this now for many months. And with regards to the masks that the district provides, I guess, we're assuming that students are going to come to school with masks. We're just prepared to provide masks for those students that don't. So we'll always have masks. There'll never be a question if a student is there or a staff member is there and they ask for a mask. Assuming that parents are generally providing for their students.
Okay, thank you. All right, Member Wilson.
Will there be at-home COVID test kits available to families that request them?
The district, through the president, the district is not intending to provide take-home tests. So if people want those, they're either going to procure them personally or they're going to acquire them through other means, either the health department or the state.
And I just want to share a little bit of background on that. So you might be reading, just like I do, to other places where, these wonderful school districts are sending home these kits. And that's great. And we support the kits. But what we have chosen to do from day one, because of our situation in our city, was to do the PCR test, and because it's a higher quality. And the reason being is that when COVID had an uptick and people needed tests, we were sending people home with symptoms, adults, our employees, as well as children, and they waited in lines at different COVID testing sites for PCR testing because that's what they needed for a lengthy amount of time, 3-4 hours, and then they would receive their test back in 3 or 4 days, depending on the volume. And consequently, students were out of school and staff. And so when we heard that feedback from parents about kids being out for almost a week and then the test comes back negative, they were pretty frustrated, as well as our employees who said, man, I had to use my leave for this long and then I come back. So early on, we worked with our staffing and decided how could we impact our community the most is to actually have our kids and our employees come back to work and know very quickly. And that's when we engaged in high quality PCR testing at this building, as well as at every single one of our schools. And it's a lot of staff, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, it's the courier service. It is a big deal in the district to move the samples, to take the samples, to register the samples, for the nurses to follow up with the samples. It is a lot of work. And so when the opportunity, after we had been doing this, our teachers were happy that they weren't kept out and other employees, too long. And our parents were happy that, okay, I got my test. I could take a test at school, and by the time the next morning I would know, can I go to school or not? And so that was of high value to us. So we chose that route. Now, when the home tests come in, we said, absolutely, get them home through the health center, get them home through the grocery stores, whatever. But the fear was, if we did the PCR testing and offered that, as well as the at-home test, our nurses, like we said, the bridge even to the grant was narrow because we couldn't take on another job. And so we made the very deliberate decision that we support home tests and we think they're valuable, but our focus and our nurse time and our energy is going to be on these PCR because it helps our kids and our employees. So I know that's a long explanation, but I've had about 4 or 5 board members ask me now the same question. And so I just wanted to spend a lot of time, let you understand that it isn't that we're against the tests. It's not that we don't want to be a participant. It's just capacity to do something well. And we've chosen to do the PCR well. Absolutely well, and serve our employees and our students. So thanks.
Thank you. Member Holloman, I see your hand. Well, I saw it.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask if this grant can be used to enhance the cleaning in schools. I know back at the beginning of this, we tried to really get on top of it, but the words that I've heard from employees is things aren't being scrubbed like they used to be. I don't know if we're still able to clean every classroom with like a thorough wipe down every night, and whether or not this grant could be used to enhance physical cleaning in the building.
Through the president to Member Holloman. I guess I'm not clear on the question. I am understanding that the procedures that the district implemented at the start of this are still in effect. Specifically, that the district has provided the materials to classrooms to include the disinfectant that the teachers at the end of the day would do a quick spray, and then the custodians would do a more detailed cleaning of schools. And to my knowledge, that system is still in effect. So I guess I need to know if there are specific concerns, and we can certainly address those. But I'm not cognizant of any district-wide reductions in cleaning of our schools.
Okay. And I'll say it's anecdotal that individuals have said they felt like rooms were not being cleaned every evening. But if someone talks to me about that again, I'll ask them to be very specific about it and be able to follow up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Member Holloman. Yes, Member Donnelly.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up a little more on the testimony that we heard tonight about speech therapy, not using masking. I'm glad you keep a track of the request of December 8th, but if that testimony, the individual had contacted me earlier this week and said that she was frustrated. She'd reached out to the district about this issue many times and nobody had gotten back to her. So could we follow up with her? Because if there's a speech therapist out there that's not utilizing the face shields and is actually requiring the masks, I'm very concerned with that.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to me.
We will follow up. Yeah.
Thank you, Member Donnelly. Yes, Member Higgins.
I said one concern raised to me by several people, and that is with the Omicron, the spread of that so easy and so quick in a shorter period of time. It's just the way that we're administering the lunch periods, because they're in a setting by themselves, no protections or anything else. They're eating for 20 minutes with the group and in different sections. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that. But given the rapid spread of this and that it's infecting kids today, like the others haven't, the spread of that just escalates the risk factors tremendously. And I don't know, I mean, you can't probably build little plastic shields to go over a table so everybody sits in a different place, but it almost feels like it has to be that way for these to keep it from spreading. I know in one class before, one got it, the other ones had to be, quarantined, but the other one to the right got it. So it was really spread. But the lunch issue, some people are picking up their kids for lunch to avoid that. But I just don't know if there's anything else that can be done there, because I think that's going to be a serious problem going forward with this particular variant in line with it.
Member Lessons.
Thank you. I have a number of questions, so I will try to intersperse them. I wanted to ask Dr. Bishop and or Mr. Roth to follow up on the email that went out to the community today about what might happen with respect to potential changes to the school calendar. And there may be a reason that you didn't say more, but it's my sense that there may be uncertainty. So if you could please clarify a little bit more.
That's a great question through the president to Member Lessons. There's quite a bit of uncertainty, and there always will be. So that's what I'm trying to share what we can and update. I wanted to be very clear that taking a computer home is not going to be my go-to. And so that was the purpose of that email, that if we had to take a pause to address staffing issues and the ability to carry out our mission, that my recommendation would be to utilize in-service days, utilize our inclement weather day that we have left, possibly if we had to add on days like, we have in the past, a couple of days to make up student learning days, that those would be more valuable to me and to student learning from what we know about online, not only the learning outcomes, but also the mental health and behavioral outcomes that we are experiencing, that we would, my recommendation to the board would be that school days are made up as full instructional days. And so because we don't know the future, I didn't want to come out with it's going to be this. It will be a public discussion. I'll make a recommendation at that time. But it's just another thing of uncertainty that I wanted to provide enough information to signal that, we're not going to say, let's go for a month online. I just don't think that's valuable. If we'll keep people updated. If a school needs to shut down because we can't handle staffing, that might happen prior to a district going online. So, but in the end, if online is an option that is taken, then that if the board recommends that or decides in a vote that you would like that to happen, certainly that I didn't want to take away that possibility, but it would not be my go-to as I don't recommend it. So I regret that so much about Omicron, about the virus, about masks. Now this is so unknown, but it is the world we live in. I wanted to be crystal clear that students need to be in school, that I will double down saying that our children deserve to be in buildings. And they deserve an education, and our community needs to put them first and not go to canceling school. We don't need to go there. I think schools are the safest places in our community.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. Yes.
I guess this is a follow-up. I appreciate that this was anticipated. Students a day calling in sick. So I think I personally appreciate you setting the stage for what might happen at some point down the road. I do think that additional forms of anticipatory guidance, to borrow from medical terminology, might be useful. If we could advise families on whether or not they should report at home, like if they test positive, if they have acquired an at-home testing kit, are we going to advise students to call their nurses and say, hey, my child tested positive at home? Because that's different than maybe a self-reported?
Actually, that is what happens all the time.
happens
The
all the time.
majority of
Okay.
our student cases aren't discovered by us. They're called in, and it's been from the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's the thing. It is kind of on your honor. Certainly if there's, symptoms and we test them in school, but, parents call in. That's how we know.
Okay.
They call their school nurses. Yeah.
And then I guess, and this was spoken a little bit tonight in some of the testimony. Again, we don't have a crystal ball for the future, but is there a metric that you expect to be paying most attention to? It may not, is it case counts? Is it hospitalization rates?
That's a great question.
What is that goalpost?
From what I'm
for our
reading,
district?
From other countries as well as our own, is that really how our community's healthcare system can support what's out there, that this variant will rip through half of us. And interestingly enough, before COVID, we actually had a school that had flu. Half the school, we had 200 absences at Roger Park at one time, and we remained open. They tested kids there and found that it was, an influenza A or something like that. But then, 50 of them were just regular absences for vacation and things like that. But we did look into that. So understanding that as a possibility, absolutely. And we want to be ready for it. Having safe staff and students feel confident that when they come to work, they can do their job, they're going to be taken care of, they're going to have each other and operate and carry out a mission is priority. And we're just going to work through those things. But what I'm reading is that the case counts are going to go up no matter what. So we do understand that. And we just have to see how our community healthcare providers and institutions of health can support that.
So I really want to thank, was it Tom, Shannon, Dave, Kathy, Kate that worked on the grant during your break? Thank you for that. And I do appreciate the 75% salary cushion. Now would that would go into 22, 23, or that would be it's a carryover?
I would have to default to
It could
Jim
create
Anderson.
some
I think it would
fund
probably
balance.
it would probably
That's all.
relieve some of the pressure on this year's budget.
Deficit. Yes. Okay. Thank you. And then, the N95, I get it. I get that. I had a question about it, but you answered it. So thank you guys very much for all your hard work, and welcome, Kate.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Tom.
Are we on to just questions for the superintendent now?
Yes, sir. If you have any.
Thank you.
Madam Superintendent, I was concerned with some of the testimony we heard tonight that implied that a choir instructor intimidated students to wear masks during a period of optional masking. And maybe I misunderstood the testimony, but if in fact that would be a violation of district policy, if it was during a period of optional masking, and if it wasn't during a period of optional masking, the testimony wouldn't have made much sense. So I'm just concerned about that.
Madam President, just through the president to member Donnelly, just so you know, when we, just like you, hear things that don't make sense to us, we follow through. And so we have the names of people, we look up schools, we talk to, so when we hear things that not just testimony on for or against, but incidences, I already know the schools, I already know classrooms of kids, of who the name is of the child. I already know all that because we begin looking right away. We're very efficient and we address those things. And then our process is that we respond in the board connect to give you additional information. Sometimes it's, you know what, you heard tonight, I know you were concerned, but it just wasn't true. And sometimes we're like, yep, this is what we're doing because of it. And we found out. So we should have information, the board connect on those things. And we do follow up just like you if it doesn't seem to make sense, or if we're concerned as well about it's inconsistent with practice.
Thank you. Other questions for Superintendent? Member Higgins?
I had some questions raised to me in regards to the memo, the COVID that went out to the public, and it made statements in here that, and I'll quote it. It said that learning time would be made up, quality instruction throughout the spring semester, consequently adjusting school schedule for presently non-scheduled instructional leave. And that would that include spring break? What does that include? Because you got a lot of people wondering, okay, what are we up to?
Sure. Really anything that primary was instructional days that were non-instructional days, but are school days. So we would look to inclement weather day. We would look at working with the union to do in-service days, or we don't necessarily do parent-teacher conference days fully like we did before, grading days. I mean, there's different days that we could trade out. The opposite would be we go longer into the school year. And so that's what we're looking at, but we don't know how many days. We don't have any information. And you know what? I put out as much as I could, signaling that the biggest message in there is that the superintendent of ASD is against going online. And I know, I believe in online choice on learning. It can work when you have the tools and the assets. Our data demonstrated there were too many kids suffering. It won't be a go-to for me.
Did you have follow-up to that real quick? First of all, I appreciate the fact that we're dealing with speculation, and so the timing and issues are all out there. And this would have to vary somewhat by schools then, if you got some schools that are shut down versus others, so it's not district-wide. How much, though, can be accomplished by if they're out for a period of time with off learning through the connection so that they can continue that way? Because you got some kids that are out sick anyway with it, and they're going to be losing that time. You're going to have whole the classrooms issues in schools for the staffing. So it's going to be a nightmare of consequences here.
Yeah. I mean, that's correct. Through the president to Member Higgins, on the one-offs, we absolutely are working. Like, we have a school now that we're working on a one-off that just happens to have extended school year. That we look at it and we're making decisions based on that, what's best for the kids and the staff in that school. But like I said, if it's a school here or there, you get permission. You can individually get permission for adjustments in calendar or not making up the school days from the commissioner. But certainly if it was a district-wide closure ubiquitously every school, we would definitely have to adjust the calendar and go to the board to request calendar adjustments to send to deed, because it is a statutory requirement in regard to the number of school days. So we would have to look at those individually, and I foresee that it may begin as a school-to-school basis if things can't be covered. And some schools have a high capability of, continuing the learning, and some schools wouldn't, based on programs, number of kids, staffing. If staff are certainly sick, then they wouldn't be teaching, that it would be difficult to teach. So we wouldn't request that of them if they're sick. So it's literally school by school, initially assessing. And if it grows, then we move to a more scaled approach that would look at utilizing those work days for adults, but non-instructional days for students. That would be the go-to to be able to come with an agreement to utilize those days. And it would be, our employees deciding that they could do their grading or other things on a Saturday on their own time while we have kids in school on a school day. But that just depends. We have a collective bargaining agreement. We have a school board that has opinions. We have staffing opinions. We have, there's so much. I just don't have that crystal ball, but I do know the options.
If we do call a school, is there some notification out there, time frame that would be met, like on the internet, like on the computer, like on the website, that would tell you if there are school closings for this, that somebody could go, they would know at 6:00 because you got parents out there? Is there a system set up, or is there a design for this?
Yes. Our schools are listed, the ones that have COVID. We have availability on that site. Every school is listed. It would tell you whether a classroom's shut down, a school shut down. So we have that already set up for utilization as needed.
All right. Member Lessons.
I have two non-COVID questions relating to our guardrails, not our goals, but our guardrails. The board received right before break, during break, sort of a white paper, a monitoring report on guardrail number 1. And is that public? If so, where is it? Is it on our webpage in relation to our goals and guardrails? Because that seems like useful information that
We could post that on our website or attach it to a board. The guardrail report on, right, no, but we can do it. Yeah, we'll do it. We can attach it.
I think that would be a wonderful
that sounds
policy
good.
moving forward to make that information available, much like our reading proficiency then becomes public knowledge.
That's a great idea.
Thank you so much. And the second one, I'm thinking the budget will be coming up. I would like to ask the board, and maybe this is a board president question, for an emergency goal monitor or guardrail monitoring session of the guardrail about the plan to develop a diverse and culturally responsive workforce in advance of our budget work. Based on our calendar, I think it's scheduled for June, and it seems as though there's a financial component to it.
That's
So
a great question.
If it could be
is
moved
It's on the agenda for our retreat.
for the
on
retreat. Okay, excellent.
15th of January.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on.
If nobody else has another question. First of all, I strongly support your efforts to try to keep us in school. Thank you very much. I still remain concerned about the board policy not being followed by some schools when it comes to the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you have any update on the schools or the instances that I personally witnessed where the pledge wasn't being said in some of our schools in violation of our board policy?
Sure. When we, through the president to member Donnelly, when you had shared the names of the schools that you had visited, we did remind the supervisors, talk to principals to say, remember, this is board policy. We need to get this done. What we did find out is that throughout the day, depending, some of the schools just have different operations. They'll have a homeroom that isn't necessarily first, and the homeroom might be second period. And then that's when either they would do it in that homeroom or they would do it on the speaker. There's a middle school that does their announcements not first thing, but later. So, and we have an elementary school that one day a week they do it, have students come and do it globally. The other days a week, it's done in the classroom. And so we just shared that the expectation is that the Pledge of Allegiance is said every day in our classrooms, and we have that opportunity, and we just continue to share that. So we did, through supervisors of schools, directly share the schools for which you shared, but also every director already talked to their principal to ensure that the kids are saying the pledge.
Member Donnelly, can I just get a clarification? Because I know this is very important to you, and I'm really trying to understand.
Our current board policy.
Can I ask the question,
Yeah,
please? So, is it your understanding, are you expecting that at 8:05 a.m. every morning well, let's say 8:15 every morning, in middle school, everybody's saying the pledge? Because that is not my interpretation of the policy. The policy is that every child every day would have the opportunity to say the pledge. So I'm trying to understand, what is your concern?
Well, I do believe that is the policy, because the policy specifically states that in the morning over the loudspeaker system, the Pledge of Allegiance shall be said. It isn't just that it shall be said every day. The policy actually specifies that.
Over the loudspeaker? Okay, I'll go back and review the policy, but that is really
Let's
in
call
school.
it up and look at it right now, if you like, because
No,
that's what I was concerned about. that These schools weren't doing that.
I asked the
And they
question.
were leaving it up to individual classrooms to make the decision. And the reports I was getting is that the individual classrooms weren't doing it, even in the individual classrooms. But there is a policy, existing policy, that we said in the morning, first thing, over the loudspeakers, over the PA system.
Okay, then I will go back and review the policy, and we can have a further discussion at another time. I do know that
it's
what I hear.
Not the practice. Yeah.
I, as a principal for almost 20 years in a middle school where we had teams, the schedule varied, but every day the pledge got said. And we didn't do it over the PA system every day, but it was a priority. And so perhaps we need to go back and look at the policy and look at our practice. If we're going to, it was not, and I think I was on the board when we looked at that policy. I agree that we need to say the pledge. Kids need to know it. I'm just astounded that my 6-year-old grandson now, he knows it because they say it in their classroom. That's where he learned it, not over the PA, in his classroom. So I agree. And so I just think for us to regiment, to make it so firm that everybody at a certain time of their school experience have to engage in an activity when there's so many differences between middle school and elementary and high school. I don't think that was the intent of the policy, but we can discuss it more. Dr. Bishop and then Member Jacobs.
Yeah, I would just, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to just share a good news of why things were adjusted. When I visited with a principal, and this was of an elementary school, and just asked, hey, how is this done? The one that I shared previously about 1 day a week. The discussion came about at their data dialogue. And they decided that taking 15 minutes a day to do announcements and the pledge at the same time, it was more about the announcements, not the pledge, that they decided that they were taking away time on task for kids, because during the announcements, kids are kind of everywhere, that they wanted to recapture at their school more time on task. So they narrowed their overall announcements with the birthdays and this and that to 1 day a week. And then, so that's when the pledge happened. And that the pledge, though, the announcements would come over the computer the rest of the time, and teachers would read them if, they were important, as well as doing the pledge in their classroom. And again, it came from teachers in their working group looking at how do we capture more class time. So it wasn't, I want to be very clear, it wasn't a decision at a school level and a, teacher principal level to say, we don't want to do the pledge. It was, boy, how do we capture every minute of learning time on task? And so that's truly like when I visited with her about why do you do this and what do you do and what do most schools do? I mean, that was some of the explanation. And so, but it wasn't about not wanting to say the pledge or not saying the pledge. It was certainly to recapture time on task, which is a good thing, I thought.
Oops.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to clear up the board policy 6115 actually gives flexibility to staff as to when the pledge is said. It's the accompanying AR 6115A that specifically two different sections limits it to in the morning and during announcements. So that's something that we could discuss in governance if the administration wants to bring something forward. But the board policy itself is simple and easy to adhere to and acknowledges the importance of the pledge. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, let's go on. Let's continue on. Member lessons.
I got the side eye. I knew that side eye. Thank you, Madam President. I am appreciative of the reports that we get, maybe a little more frequently now than we used to, the Special Ed Advisory Committee, military, when that has happened, student. I don't know that we need to create an Omicron Advisory Committee, but I believe that the next few weeks will be extraordinarily challenging. I understand that Dr. Bishop will make some sort of a community announcement in the middle of the month. We do have a board meeting on the 18th. I wonder whether there would be value and other board members would see value in having a brief presentation from leading public health officials in the community to simply give us an overview from their perspective on what they see.
You're just keeping all my whole cards, Member Leslie. Okay. We have that planned for us on the 14th, actually, Friday the 14th. We are still trying to gather the panel, and we got to give Kate some time to get her feet on the ground, but we have that planned for to kick off our retreat, actually. And we will get more information out to the board as we continue with that. So I heard you the last time. All right, thank you. So let's continue on. If there are any more board comments or administrative comments, comments? Member, we're going to go to Pat first today. Member Higgins. Hey.
Well, I briefly always enjoy the members, the public speaking that takes place in front of the board, because they, and to recognize some of the things that I'm hearing from in that group. I listened to the story with the teacher having the conflict about the mask and the principal being involved. And one of the things I like about that story is that somebody's advocating for their child. They're going up the chain. And if they had to go above the principal, they should do it. But if there's an issue or a challenge with that, I like the idea that they're listening to the issue, they're responding to it. I don't know whether that was the best response or not, but I do like the system in place. And that's important from my standpoint. I was kind of moved by the story with the choir with Susan Reed. That was interesting to listen to and to hear that type of support getting behind a program like that. And I listened to the part about the issue of the funding and the lack of support from the state and the issue associated with that. And it goes back to the issue that I've talked about before. When are we going to take some action or at least discuss what the legal options are? We're being underfunded relative to other places in the state. We've got flat funding for 5 years. We can't continuously be cut, and we aren't being adequately funded by any standards I think the court system would do. And if we're going to fight for the kids and we're going to be the advocate, we need to go up the chain of command. And I think that's a discussion we need to have on the agenda, because there are two issues. One is disproportionate funding, the formula for the BSA, which is back from the 90s, so over 20 years ago, and is not accurate today. And just the, like I said, the adequacy of it, because we are grossly underfunded by the study that we had done by Pike and Sodom. So with an update with that, but I think we need to discuss that. The last thing is just on the COVID issue. I'm reading all the articles and we're reading the stories about how young people are being impacted. They're, as young as 4 on ventilators. And the impact is, unlike the past, this is going to impact the kids today that are in the school system. And I know it's a parental choice, and I support the parental choice on the issue of vaccines or not. But if you're pro idea that you think you want to do the vaccine, the timing is now. We're going to be inundated. We know that. We see the waves, just like they got hit with airlines. We're going to be hit with every port of staffing in ASD, but we're going to be inundated in hospitals too. And I'd hate to see rationing of care. And that's what's going to happen with young kids, because in some cases, people are not really opposed to it. They just haven't done it. And it's going to impact them. There's too many stories coming in from the kids and their families that are impacted. And I am really concerned about that. So I would just simply ask the public, if you've got young kids and you're thinking about it, I think it applies to everybody, because the state doesn't have a high percentage, like as high as it should be with vaccines. But we're risking a lot of people to be infected with serious illness that's going to be hospitalization, that's going to be serious. So I just hope that the public will, and the parents and the like, will think about others when it comes to the vaccine issue, because that's going to have to be the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Higgins. Let's go to Member Holloman. Any comments?
I've got no comments tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Member Wilson.
I just want to say again, thank you to the team that worked on the $5.5 million grant. I'm going to repeat that, $5.5 million grant. Good job. Bravo to all of you. Really appreciate. I know there was a lot of work that went into that. My brother's a grant writer and I get to hear all about it. So thank you again for that work. I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed their holiday, their time off. Those of you that got time off and didn't work on the grant. And I look forward to a positive and productive 2022.
Thank you. All right. Member Jacobs, got anything for the good of the order?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to echo appreciation and congratulations for the staff who were able to secure that grant. It's valuable resources that we'll be able to use to assist in our mitigation efforts. Did want to remind folks interested in other board happenings that we have a leadership webinar on the 13th at 5:30 for those interested in learning more about board roles and responsibilities. And in addition to expressing appreciation for those who are willing to come out and testify, I also wanted to say thank you to staff who weathered through a very interesting first day back from winter break. Saw lots of photos of wind damage, and so thank you to everyone who made yesterday a success.
Thank you. Member Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam President. I just would like to say that America is worth protecting, and realizing that progress can be made without destroying the things that made it special. Things like citizenship and equality for all, work ethic, rewarding talent, forgiveness, and freedom. Thank you.
Ditto. Thank you, sir. Member Lessons.
Yeah, thank you to the staff for making that grant possible. I deeply appreciate it. I wanted to just preemptively say that I anticipate the next 4 to 6 weeks to be maybe more challenging than anything the district has faced before logistically. However, I'm really optimistic that that is going to bring something new about. And if we can all get through the next few weeks, I think our community is going to be better for it.
Thank you. Dr. Bishop.
And I would just like to say I concur that this will, with staffing and levels and things like that, this variant spreads quite a bit, but it looks that we might be better prepared as a society afterwards. So absolutely agree that this is going to be challenging. And I want to let you know that ASD people, our families and our kids, and especially our employees are good people, and we're going to do what we can together. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I just, I think, Carl, you mentioned the leadership series that's starting this month. Yes, thank you. And that of course is for anyone that's interested in learning more about how the school board functions. As I stated earlier, our retreat is, and as you know, our retreat is the 14th and the 15th. We will finalize pieces of that agenda over the next few days, and we'll get it out to the board. The plan is for a Friday meeting from 4 to 7, Friday the 14th, 4 to 7, and then 9 to 2 on Saturday. We will kick off with a medical panel. Then we will go into our executive session for a couple hours, and then we will come back on Saturday morning, doing some work with the goals and guardrails, and then have a legislative update near the end of our day, because it's the time where we need to be talking to our representatives, our legislators, before they get to Juneau and while they're in Juneau. So we are going to have a review of all the legislation that is relative to education. And so with that, what did I miss, Katie? Okay. Anybody over there dare say anything? No, I'm joking.
Madam President,
I'm not going to give you the slant eye.
Don't we have our newest employee send us? No, just kidding. She was already a little upset. She got called up.
We could put her on the spot. Anyway, I appreciate the privilege of your time, both board members and staff. Thank you, and have a good evening. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned.